The halls of justice always hummed with a specific kind of electricity, a mixture of nervous anticipation and the heavy weight of truth waiting to be uncovered. On this particular day, the courtroom of Judge Judy Shineland was prepared for case number 3032. The air was cool and smelled slightly of polished wood and old law books. As the clock struck the hour, the bailiff stood tall and announced the commencement of the session. "All rise," he said with a voice that echoed against the high ceilings. "Have a seat, please." Judge Judy took her place on the bench, her sharp eyes scanning the papers before her. She was a woman who had seen every possible iteration of human conflict, and she had a unique talent for untangling the messy webs people wove around themselves. "Hello, Judge," Amina Thornton said, standing at the plaintiff's station. Beside her stood Donnie Alford, the man she was suing for dog registration papers, personal property, and an allegation of assault. Donnie, in turn, had brought a countersuit regarding the cost of French bulldogs and defamation. Judge Judy looked at the two individuals standing before her. "This case has so many tentacles to it," she remarked, her voice dry and steady. "Let us deal with the simple ones first." She turned her attention to Amina Thornton. "Miss Thornton, you have a music company." "Somewhat," Amina replied. She was a woman of many titles, a disabled veteran, a business owner who ran a trucking company with her husband, and a breeder of dogs. When asked what she had to do with music, she explained that it was a catalyst for her connection with the defendant. The story began in November of the year 2021. Amina had attended a show in a rented space where Donnie Alford was performing as an exotic dancer. At the time, she was merely a spectator in the audience, but a connection was made. Donnie had led her believe that he was a man of many talents, offering massages and harboring a deep ambition to succeed in the music industry. By March of the year 2022, their relationship had grown, and Amina decided to support his dreams. Amina rented a 2-bedroom apartment in the Buckhead area of Georgia. The lease was in her personal name, signed in February of the year 2022. At that time, she was estranged from her husband, a period of separation that had begun in January of that same year. She moved into one of the bedrooms and converted the second room into a music studio where artists could record their work. Donnie Alford, who was homeless at the time, moved in with her in February. Though they lived in the same apartment, Amina maintained that they occupied separate bedrooms, though Donnie would occasionally stay in hers. There was an agreement for him to pay rent, but as the months passed, the money never materialized. Donnie lived there under her lease, supported by her finances, as he focused on his artistry. Amina eventually moved back to her husband in June of the year 2022, leaving Donnie in the apartment. The lease was eventually transferred into his name because his credit was not strong enough to secure it on his own. In the courtroom, Donnie contested this version of events. He claimed that Amina had never actually lived in the apartment and that she had only helped him secure it through a friend who managed the complex. He insisted that he was the rightful leaseholder and that he was still in possession of property, even as an eviction notice loomed over him in November. Judge Judy listened with a practiced patience, her mind already sifting through the contradictions. The conversation then shifted to the 3 French bulldogs that had become the center of their financial and emotional storm: Crown, Royalty, and Prince. The business of breeding these dogs was supposed to be a side hustle, a way to generate income, while Donnie pursued his music. The first dog, Crown, was purchased for $4,500. Amina had paid a $500 deposit in April and the remaining $4,000 when they picked up the dog in June. Donnie admitted that Amina had paid for Crown, and since she was not suing for that dog, the matter seemed settled. However, the second dog, Royalty, was a different story. Purchased on June 11th of the year 2022 for $3,500, Royalty became a point of deep contention. Amina had moved home shortly after a devastating miscarriage, a time when she was also dealing with derogatory messages from Donnie. She provided proof of a $500 deposit from her bank account and claimed she paid the rest in cash. Donnie insisted that he was the one who had paid for the dog, but when asked for proof, he had none. He claimed it was a cash deal and that he no longer had the bank account associated with the funds. Judge Judy was not convinced by his lack of documentation. You do not take $3,500 out if you cannot pay your own rent to buy a dog, she pointed out. She reminded him that bank records could be retrieved regardless of whether he still had the account or the phone he used at the time. All you need to do is take your legs and go over to the bank and ask for your withdrawals, she said. The third dog, Prince, was purchased in August of the year 2022 for $3,000. By then, Amina was fully settled back with her family, but she continued to finance the dog breeding venture. She showed proof of a $2,500 payment. Donnie claimed he had contributed the same amount, but again, he could offer no evidence beyond the registration papers he held in his hand. The judge reached a decision regarding the dogs. She noted that Amina had physical custody of the animals since September of the year 2022. She issued an order to the American Kennel Club, declaring that Amina Thornton was the rightful owner of the 3 dogs and that new registration papers should be issued in her name. Donnie was ordered to remain silent as the judge finalized this portion of the ruling. Finally, the court addressed the allegation of assault. Amina described a volatile situation that occurred in December of the year 2022. She had stopped paying the rent for the apartment in September after the dogs were in her custody, which had angered Donnie. He began requesting loans, and their disagreements escalated. Amina claimed the assault took place in the apartment, while Donnie adamantly denied ever laying a hand on her. As the proceedings drew to a close, the complex web of their shared history was finally laid bare. It was a story of misplaced trust and the difficult lessons learned when business and personal lives overlap. Amina stood tall, ready to return to her husband and children, taking with her the legal recognition of the animals she cared for. Donnie was left to face the consequences of his choices, as the courtroom fell silent and the next case was called. The values of honesty and responsibility remained the guiding lights of the Hall of Justice, ensuring that even in the most tangled of cases, a clear path toward the truth could be found.